Welcome to On the Edge. I'm Max Keiser. Let's not waste any time. Let's go right to New York and speak with legendary trends forecaster Gerald Celente of the Trends Research Institute. Gerald publishes the quarterly Trends Journal, which forecasts political, cultural, environmental, and economic trends. Gerald Celente, welcome back to On the Edge.
Always great being on with you, Max.
All right, Gerald Celente, here's a question for you. Are you really forecasting, or are you just the only guy who's willing to state the truth about the present?
I don't think I'm the only guy willing to state the truth. There are others out there. I think what we are unique in is that in December of 2009, when we sent out our top trends for 2010, that we predicted the crash of 2010. So we put our reputation on the line as we did in 2007 when we predicted the panic of '08. We even took the domain name out.
Okay, let's review a little bit. Back in, as you point out, 2007, the trends forecast accurately predicted that the economy was about to hit the rocks. We then had the massive stimulus and bailout packages. 2009, there was a bit of a sugar high, or some on Wall Street called a dead cat bounce, to put it inelegantly or elegantly, depending on how you think about it. But at that time, trends forecasted, no, this is really just more of the same that we've seen before, and that 2010 will be another big wave down. And we're certainly seeing that now in the foundation, which has always been, during the extent of this multi-year crisis, the foundation has always been real estate values. Real estate values in the subprime crisis were really the plank that went down and took the rest of the economy with it. And once again, we're seeing around the world and in the U.S., real estate prices looks like entering a second leg down. Is this what you're seeing, Gerald?
Yeah, the leg has always been down. They only put up that little leg when they pumped it up with those tax rebates. Remember those? The tax breaks, $8,000 before it was first for first-time home buyers, and then they extended it for everybody. So what they actually did, Max, they suckered people into buying into a falling market with a little bit of chump change tax breaks. There are 20 million vacant homes in the United States. The foreclosure rate keeps climbing. There is no recovery. Real estate has a lot more to drop.
Now, recently we saw darn near riots in the street. The government was in the process of offering some low-cost housing, and a riot broke out. I mean, is this, you predicted, I believe in 2010, that there would be a lot of social unrest in the U.S. I mean, this is pretty much what you were talking about, isn't it?
Exactly, and we're just seeing the beginning of it. You know, it takes time for these things to hit the people. They believe the baloney. They believe in hope. Hope, by the way, is the most negative word in the metaphysical dictionary. They believed in change that they thought they could believe in. So they gave it a little time. But as they're losing their jobs, they're losing their homes, you're getting these kids out of college with no jobs, living with mommy and daddy, who are paying for their cell phones and their rent, and they're $100,000 in debt. You know my saying, and I watch the blogs and people say, I'm tired of Celente saying it. Well, if you're tired, too bad. I'll say it again. As a Bronx guy, my saying is, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And that's what people are at right now. Max, we had forecast in October of 2009 the beginning of the Second American Revolution. You're going to start seeing it. It's taking place in the streets, as you pointed out, as it did in Atlanta a few days ago.
Now, let's talk about the New York Times for a second, because, as you mentioned, they are the paper of record for America, and they have a rarefied place at the head of the journalistic table. They've got an economics analyst there, Paul Krugman, who is a Keynesian, who has said that, well, the Obama stimulus wasn't big enough. More stimulus, more bailouts. This has now come under disrepute because many other economists are now coming out and saying, wait a minute, at some point, debt does matter. At some point, some kind of rational accounting does matter. So Paul Krugman, his reputation now is entering a phase of being, like the New York Times itself, completely in tatters. You're in New York City. Is this what you see in New York?
Yeah, well, you know, Krugman is Krugman. If I had a track record as bad as he does, I would have been laughed out of business 30 years ago. He's not a Keynesian. He's just a Princeton hack, just like Bernanke. They're full of hot air. They have all these great solutions. I'll tell you what I never heard come out of Krugman's lips. How about this one, Max? How about stopping the wars? How about bringing the money that we're dumping in to the military-industrial complex, those soldiers of the Fortune 500 that are raping this country of every last cent, draining the treasury as we're caught in foreign entanglements. You won't hear that coming out of Krugman's mouth. And then all of a sudden, by the way, after Krugman has been talking about how the stimulus was going to save the economy, now he's speaking our lines, but only very carefully. We're entering into the greatest depression. You see it with the numbers. Only the blind and the deaf that don't read the numbers or hear the people can't see what's going on. Anybody that follows the New York Times for advice deserves what they get.
Right, and of course, Keynesian is counter-cyclical to respond in good times to put money away for the bad times, and then when you hit the bad times, then you do the spending that you've saved. But the New York Times, Paul Krugman version of Keynesianism is to never save and just always hit the spend button. Now
could you just stay on that 1 second, Max?
Yeah.
That's very important because most people don't understand that. They only think of Keynesian as dumping money to bail out the system, and that's not what it's about. And you should really continue, I believe, to drive that point home. And you don't keep spending yourself into debt, taking out a third mortgage after you can't pay your second.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about methodology here, because the track record for Trends Research Institute is non-paralleled. I mean, it's fantastic. So let's talk about something that I noticed here in the introduction. Trends Journal forecasts political, cultural, environmental, economic trends. But these things don't exist in a vacuum, do they? They intermingle, whereas the mainstream media tends to approach these topics as separate entities and never talk about the interrelationships and cross-relationships. Can you talk a little bit about how observing cultural trends would inform you about the economic and political trends and some of the inter-trend analysis that goes on beneath the surface over there at Trends Journal?
Chief Seattle said it best. All things are connected like the blood which unites us all. And that's really what this is about. We keep making connections between different fields. As you mentioned, cultural. Current events form future trends. We also say that opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. So, for example, you have people in technology. They only look at technological trends. As you mentioned, only looking at economic trends. Let me give you an example of a cultural trend, where society's going, and how you can put your money down and win easily. President Obama, a few weeks ago, appeared on The View. This is a show, a TV show that's shown at mid-morning. Who has the time to watch this garbage of a bunch of cackling hens and Obama talking about nothing, answering questions such as about the life of Lindsay Lohan? Did you hear what Mel Gibson had to say? How about Snooki? And I thought for a moment, that's it. America has become Snooki stupid, and you can see it at every level. You see it in entertainment. You see it in the way people carry themselves. You see it in how they look and how they eat. America is now the most obese nation on earth. It overconsumes in every way. not only spending its money on houses that could fit 3 families, not only one, driving cars that are huge, eating beyond obese. Now we're having little kids with obesity problems and diabetes problems. We've never had that before. So you start making the connections and you see where the future is going. And the future is going downhill. Could you imagine, Max, in your wildest dreams, to have the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, talking Snooki stupid